So, Soul Center, good morning. Welcome. Happy February. Happy month of love. Well, actually, it's the life of love. But that's what we're here for. And love is here. That's the theme of our month. It's here, it's there, it's everywhere. There's no place that love is not. As you all know, we are part of the Agape Association of Communities, an affiliate of the Agape International Spiritual Center. And I am just grateful to be a part of a community that is all loving, all embracing, and all vibrating in all of its glory. That golden thread that you often hear me speak about that runs through all of the religions at the mystical level. It's at its most, it starts to get potent at the mystical level. At the mystical level, there's a mystical sect of every religion, and it's at that space and place of mysticism where they all talk the same language and they're all blissed out in a beautiful field of love and embrace, and there is no separation, and that is part of what our community is. There is no separation. The ultimate separation is our thinking and misunderstanding sometimes that we are separate from the divine, that there's something other than love expressing. That's part of the illusionary field of the human experience. And while we're here, which we came here to have fun. We came here, most of you know that I love, that's what got me here to incarnate, was to have fun and to laugh and to experience joy. And so that's what our spiritual practice is. And sometimes along the way, we stumble and we encounter things, challenges in our lives. And pretty much everything, most of you know that my field as a minister is in the world of energy medicine and understanding the language of the divine, the language of the universe, the language of life, the language of God. They're all synonymous. There's a language of life, and if you don't understand the language of life, it can be a little excruciatingly painful from time to time. But as it says in Scripture, the truth shall set you free, and that applies across the board. And the truth is when you understand the language of the divine through and through and as your life. And that language means that hurt, anything that is hurtful or hurts within us, is going to end up if it's unresolved, in the trauma body. And if you don't take care of your hurt will take care of you. And I promise you, you don't want your hurt to take care of you. You want to take care of your hurts. You can't be angry unless you're hurt. You can't have any disappointments or any sadness or any of those negative emotions unless somewhere inside of you, and all hurt comes from a misunderstanding, a misinterpretation of the truth within us. Somewhere in our beingness, because in the realm of free will and free choice, we get to choose to have these experiences, and we get to choose to believe things. And our belief system it's a database that is enormous. And what's in that database, there are things you don't know what you believe unless you're on the spiritual path of revolution, of insight, of wholeness, of enlightenment, of which everybody's on. The only difference, every single person in here is on the path of enlightenment, just like Buddha, just like Krishna, just like Jesus, just like all of the masters who have ever walked the earth. Every single one of us is on the path to enlightenment. The only difference is, how are we going to experience that path? Are we going to experience and grow through love and through joy and through peace and goodness? These are the eternal energies. There are eternal energies that govern the universe, that are back of all life, and there are the transitory, illusionary energies that we get to play with in the realm of the human experience as human beings. We get to play around. If you want to experience, some people, like, they do those extreme sports, or, I have this client of mine, he's now a retired boxer. But I always marvel. It's like, okay, so you're putting these things, boom, and like somebody's really going to whack you. And it's like, okay. But for whatever reason, he loves it. It's not my cup of tea. But, hey, if you want to, it's like, okay, And then there's sometimes some bruises or some clicked joints or something like that. It's like, all right. So that's just an example. If you want to experience pain, you can go ahead and experience pain. It's up to you. The difference is he consciously choosing it, and he's all right with it, versus the pain that we suppress and we put it down and we squash it because of the hurt that we don't want to experience, because of the illusionary idea that something bad is going going to happen. And so it's like the Dalai Lama says, one of the key ingredients, this isn't what he said, I'll say what he's going to say in a minute, but one of the key ingredients is that we have to have compassion. Compassion is one of the most transmuting nectars or agents of life in the realm of the physical, in the realm of the transitory. Forgiveness and compassion are two of the transmuting energies. They will transmute things within your beingness. They will transmute you and bring you to truth. But most of us think we have a very, subtle idea of how all of this works. And what the Dalai Lama said, that if you want others to be happy, then you'll be compassionate. Practice compassion. If you want yourself to be happy, practice compassion. Because if I'm on an empty tank, it's really hard for me to be compassionate for other people. So I gotta start here. I want to start within. In the Hebrew Bible, we have Moses who comes along and he gives us a set of rules. We've got the 10 Commandments. A lot of people in our spiritual path are like, well, what should I do? I need my punch list. I need my hit list. What am I going to, okay, I'm going to meditate in the morning. I'm going to pray. I'm going to go to yoga. I'm going to practice compassion. And it's like we have these rules, but the thing is, in the beginning, Moses brought us the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not put any gods above and before me. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, etc., all of the commandments. And there's rules, but if you don't follow them, what good is it? So then because oftentimes you hear us in our community, it's like, what are you going to do? We're going to go into prayer. We're going to go into meditation. Those are also things that you do. But some people like a little more action. They need to be a little more action-oriented. And that's fine, because we want to be omni-active. We want to step into that. So there are things we can do to practice compassion, but you have to remember that we go from obeying the laws to embodying the laws. There are laws that govern the universe, and if you don't obey the laws, you're going to find out the hard way how they work. There are the laws of compassion, the laws of wellness, the laws of circulation and prosperity. There are laws that govern these in the world of effects. We don't need laws. Spiritual law comes down and it matriculates into time and space. But when you're of the spirit, you move outside of time and space. You move into the absolute. And it's in the absolute that's where there are no laws in the absolute. There just is. There's bliss, there's grace, there's truth, there's beauty, there's love. This is what we know as a spiritual community. And this is what we cultivate in our practice. And oftentimes there's the big thing. So if you, like I said, if you don't take care of your hurts will take care of you. They'll show up in life settings and situations, and they will kind of sometimes give you a big old kick in the keister and try to wake you up to something, because that's what discord, disharmony, and pain is. It's an alarm inside your beingness that says, wake up to something. Something's off. If I'm feeling sad, there's a barometer inside me saying something's off. It's really hard. Sometimes in the grieving process, we go through the 5 level stages of grief, and sometimes we have to go through the anger part, so we have to process it. But the way we process anything is going to make all the difference in the world, and to process that with the grace and the beauty of evoking the presence of God. God is all there is. You hear that in our community all the time, but, what does that mean if I'm not embodying it? It's like, oh yeah, God's all it is, okay, gotta go. Things to do. And it's like, but we want to embrace and embody that into our bones, to have a real knowingness. And so that means sometimes we have to take out our little nitpicker and start to really explore. Anybody who's seriously on the path is going to look out. Recently I was listening to a story about Schadenfreude, which is a German term for damaged joy. It's that thing where, whenever you've ever seen somebody who's been doing something wrong, whether it's the villain in the movie, and you're waiting for that comeuppance, where it's like, oh, they're going to get theirs, which is rooted in kind of punishment. And it's so when we're looking at it, when we're aware of that phenomenon that we call Schadenfreude. I didn't know there was an actual word that explains what that feeling is. That feeling, when your friend who's been all boastful and they're like la la la, and they're all in their ego and aren't I great, and then all of a sudden somebody comes along and whops them, and you're like, oh yeah, I took you down a couple notches, all right. That is not practicing a spiritual principle. We don't want them to get their come-uppance with a come-downance. We want them to get their come-up. Like, what if they just had a realization? What if the villain in the movie was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing all this craziness. I'm so sorry. Probably wouldn't be as dramatic in the movie theater, but there's been some movies where the resolution comes, where there's a liberation on both sides, where the victim and the villain both arrive at a place of liberation, true love, true freedom, true liberation in their beingness. That's what we're after. So what I'm asking you to do when we're kind of nitpicking is, catching those things. Our spiritual practice, when we are still, there's a time of reflection. And I can see because I can tell you on the rule book, don't gossip. That's what the spiritual rules is. Don't gossip unless you're going to do spiritual gossiping, which is only talking about how wonderful and how good everything and everyone is. But if you're going to gossip, and it's like sometimes you got to take that fine-tooth comb out and you got to really see what's going on, because sometimes we inadvertently gossip and we don't even know we're doing it. Oh yeah, so-and-so. And we kind of like, well, that's just the way it is. They're just like that. Is that a blessing or a curse? And I want to, as a spiritual community, we take capital R responsibility for our beingness, to check in, to see, are we participating in Schadenfreude and doing something like that, which is not for the greater good of humanity. That's not cultivating things. And another piece of compassion, and it's something that, when you sit with it, when you allow yourself, because first thing is, in our spiritual practice, you've heard me say this before, nobody here is, I don't have enough time to meditate and I don't have enough time to pray. We want to affirm that right out of your beingness, because if you don't have enough time to be still and know that I am, then I'm pretty sure that some of those hurts are going to kind of come up and wallop us. So we want to say, I want to be spiritually omniproactive. We want to be omniproactive, where we take a deliberate role in our lives, that it's more important, that I have more time to sit and be still in the morning, afternoon, and evening, taking a moment, than I do to go gossip at Starbucks or something like that. What's more important? Everybody's like, oh God, I wish there was world peace. What am I doing about world peace? And I will tell you, world peace starts in this world. Your world is the beginning of world peace. Because right now, it's contagious. We are osmotic beings. Osmosis is an energy that vibrates. We're all connected, and we want to vibrate. When our house is in order, that ripples out into the collective. And so, recently, over the past several years, there's been so much going on. And when the Black Lives Matter movement started, and I remember hearing, somebody going like, well, all lives matter. And it's like, okay, well, that's kind of true. But that's not being there for somebody. If somebody comes up to me and says, my life matters, and I go, well, of course all life matters, that's not being there for them. There's an aspect of it. God is omnipotent, omnipresent everywhere, and all lives do matter, yes. But if somebody comes up to me and they're hurting, I got a compassion, true compassion. I don't get down in there with them. I'm there for them. I'm holding the presence for them, and I want to understand what that means. What does it mean? I want to be there, because there is no separation. There is no they. There's no they. There's only a we. In the Me Too movement, because some of us, we take some of these things, and I'm not getting political or being partisan on any of this. This is a spiritual practice. What do you do with these things? And if one of the things that you do is not care and not take the time, anything that comes into your awareness, is part of your life. If you aren't meant to have it be part of your life, then you're not going to hear about it. You're not going to know about it. If it comes into your life by some I just happened to be flipping on the dial and I heard this thing. There's no randomness in the universe. There's always God seeking to reveal the truth to you, through you, for you, as you, on every level. We are an inclusive community that practices the principles of love, and one of those principles is to have compassion, empowered compassion. And we want the compassion that is grounded and rooted within ourselves. And so some along the way, some of the other things that you can do on your punch list is you can check in and see, what choices have I made, and what choices do I want to make? And what choices do I want to undo and redo? And what vows do I want to make? You know, we take vows on particular things in our lives that we're completely unaware of. You know, you've heard me say it before, like, can you remember all of the choices that you made on November the 3rd this past year? You can't remember them because there was thousands, if not millions of choices that you made, 90% of them unconscious, all in the subconscious layers of your human energy field in your cellular memory. Your body is a dynamic field of light that has every bit of information in it. Their cellular memory records everything, and it holds on to the things until they're resolved and brought into the light. So pain is held into your body until it is brought into the light. Misunderstanding is held into the body until it's brought into the light. And the light is the truth of God, and that is the portal of prayer. And in prayer, we can go into allowing ourselves to transmute those energies. And so we want to start digging around in there. You know, like we offer our classes here. We offer coming into meditation. When you're still, you get to become soft. When you are soft, you get to become strong. You will never become strong by being hard. You will become strong by being soft and allowing the presence and the power and the strength of God to move through you, should you choose to grow and expand your capacities to hold more good, more love, more peace, more joy. So we want to be aware of the signposts of things. When there is discord and disharmony, and as we were talking about last week, turning on your high beams to see beyond what is in front of you. When something comes up in our life, when there's a challenge that comes up in our life, most of it gets so myopically focused on the challenge that I can't see the bigger picture of what's seeking to emerge into my life. We got to pull back. If I'm going through a financial crisis, I need to pull back. There's a truth that wants to reveal itself. If I'm going through a physical crisis, I want to pull back. I don't want to be so micromanaged and focused on just that. I want to be able to open up and see what is the greater good, because God only operates through good. God only operates through bliss, grace, beauty, truth. That's the only way it works. There's no other way. The only way that we can thwart that is by choosing against it and by choosing not to see. You know, sometimes people who say, like, I don't want to see that, I don't want to know that, well, that is a recipe for not practicing compassion. The way we see it and the way we know it, that's the difference, though. We want to see and know it from a higher perspective, which means I want to get out of my surface mind and into my higher mind. The surface mind moves into fight or flight oftentimes, and it puts us in a place where, and so we want to be aware. You've heard me sometimes use the analogy, well, if you had arachnophobia, if you know you have a fear of spiders, or if you have a fear of heights, or claustrophobia, if you have something like that, then don't let it rule your life. You take control. You take control, and it starts with, I choose to heal that. I invite God into my life, and I allow there to be a benevolent, beautiful, glorious transmutation that I will be liberated and set free. You can be set free. I'm proof positive. I can't tell you. I could write you 2 pages of things that I have liberated myself from over the past 20 years, and it is glorious. And the byproduct is radiant wellness that oozes out of your pores. I am more vital and more happy and more physically fit today in my 50s than I was 20 years ago in my 30s. I am totally, this is your laboratory. You get to take it out for a test spin. You get to see what works. But like I said last week, make sure that you are seeking, that the intention is to seek and find in the most benevolent and beautiful way that truth, knowing that you want God with you, you want that God consciousness through you and as you. That's not a God outside of us, it's a God within us. We activate it from within, and we let it rise up from within us, how we live. But if we don't cultivate that, if I'm just on a hamster wheel every week in, week out, going through things, I'm not going to take the time. So I'm going to just take a moment and say that the topic of the day is to be bold to behold. You have to sometimes be bold to behold something. To behold something means you behold the awe. In Scripture, when they talk, behold, the kingdom of heaven is upon you. Behold it means you embody it. You embody it in your being and in your bones to behold something. And sometimes we have to be bold in order for that to happen. You got to be bold and say, okay, I'm not going to do status quo. I choose to be a person of integrity and of compassion. I choose to be a person of divine strength and clarity. What type of person do you want to be in the world? We choose these things. And then we allow them to flow through us. I choose, whatever that thing is that's going on in my life, I choose to be bold about it and to really, I know I've heard all the spiritual principles and I know the spiritual laws, and now I'm going to put them into practice. I'm going to put them into practice, and I'm going to invite the divine to be there with me. And so part of that is allowing the lights to jazz things up a little bit. I don't know if somebody leaned against the switch. There we go. That must be my... So again, it's about being bold to behold. We want to move into that space where we allow enthusiasm to be what guides us. Because enthusiasm in theos, the Greek word, to be inspired by the light of God, to be inspired by the truth of God. We want to embody that on a regular basis, not on a once in a while basis. Because I will tell you that once in a while is going to lead to some frustration. We do not want to make our choices and our decisions from our hurt. We do not want to make our choices and our decisions from our anger or our sadness. We want to, okay, I might need help. I'm going to have to turn within. Sometimes the prayer is, grant me the strength to be able to understand. Grant me the clarity. Grant me the vitality, whatever it is. I want to follow that wisdom. We want to tap in and be bold, and that means that I'm going to obey the laws despite what my ego says. I want to obey and then move into embodiment. I want to embody. When you embody something, it liberates you from the inside out. And that's what we're choosing. And so we honor it. And then we allow, then you'll start to notice that certain energies, all energies, no matter what, even the transitory energies of sadness or loneliness or fear or worry or doubt, coded in them is the truth that will liberate us. Sadness can be a liberator if you allow it yourself, but depending on how you embrace it. If I embrace sadness on my own and not in a divine capacity, it could take me down into, if I allow the erroneous idea back of the sadness to grab me, it could take me down into depression, which is taking me further away from the divine. If I embrace sadness and I say, what is the truth in this that I need to know in prayer? Then I'm going to take myself in a direction that's going to take me closer to that. So there's two aspects like we talked about last week. There's healing things. Everybody in life has things to heal. We all have trauma that we have to heal, sometimes small, sometimes big. And then there's living. There's just living from a pure space of creative potential, unobstructed by any worries, doubts, or fears. And one of my favorite daydreams, pray dreams, when I move into the pray dreaming mode, you move into a place, and I love to sit there and imagine, what is it like to not have any issues, to not have any money issues, to not have any creative issues, to not have any physical issues or any health issues? What is it like to not have any situational or relationship issues? What is that like? I want to see what that's like. I want to know what it's like. You know, when oftentimes when we're getting ready for meditation in the morning and we're playing that song that says, I want to know what love is, and I want you to show me. I want you to show me. I want you to show me what that's like. Sorry about the rendition. But we want to know what it's like. And that is one of the most powerful things we can do. Ask and it shall be given. Ask and you shall receive. All of this is coded and loaded in so many sacred texts around the world. Whether it's the Hebrew Bible, the Christian Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, any of the sacred texts around the world all have these pearls of wisdoms, but how many of us are actually embracing it? How many of us are actually choosing? And its byproduct is bliss. Its byproduct is ever-expanded good in your beingness. And as you remember from last week, sometimes when you go through an experience, a metamorphosis of spiritual growth, it can feel like, whoa, there's something that all of a sudden your bandwidth is going to expand. You're going to expand to hold more love. And sometimes that's a weird feeling. And sometimes you're going to expand to hold more prosperity. You're going to expand to hold more wellness. And that can be weird, to move from degenerative to regenerative. We want to do that. This is what we cultivate. This is how we participate in our spiritual practice. And, oftentimes, I hear people say, no, but, they're so-and-so, whatever, we're in a spiritual community. It's like, so, are they spiritual? And I'm saying, well, they're not. They like, they're party, blah, 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 like me back in my 20s. And so, but there's nobody that's not spiritual. There's nobody that's not on the path to enlightenment. There's nobody that's not going to make it. Everybody's going to make it. And in our community, on our watch, nobody gets left behind. Nobody. No, not by race, by creed, by religion, by nothing. We're here, and we want to bring everybody. And often you're going to find in life, what we do is we got one hand going this way saying, come on up, and we got one hand going this way going, I'm coming up, and we're just going to keep going. And as you rise, all unto you rise. And so we want to absolutely be in a place of conviction, to be bold, to behold the awe and the magnificence. There's nothing greater. There's nothing greater than the embodiment of that. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to, oftentimes you hear and it sounds like, ooh, so religious, so scriptural, they're a covenant of God. A covenant is something very sacred. It's sacred agreements that we have. And truthfully, anything that we would have with God, we're having with ourselves, because we are divine emanations of pure, holy, infinite, eternal light. And so we want to connect with that part of us. Oftentimes we get so mired down that I'm a man, or I'm a woman, or I'm this age, or I'm this color, or I'm this weight, or I'm this whatever. And it's like, no, these are the costumes we came here in, and they're wonderful and good, and they provide for a lot of theatrics. But, see what so-and-so's wearing over there? Oh my God. And it's like, okay, it's a little theatrical. But the truth is, who are you underneath? We want to know who we truly are. That's a question you'll probably not stop. Who am I really? Who am I? And you are a magnificent angel of light. Every single one of us. So we're going to go ahead and do a covenant, sacred vows with the divine. And I'm going to invite you to just take these vows with me. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to ask you to turn to one of your neighbors. And we're going to share in the sacred practice of where two or more are gathered, whether that neighbor is next to you or behind you. And if there is an odd number, then just make it 3 people. And I'm going to invite you to connect with your partner and just repeat after me. I vow and allow enthusiasm to inspire me.
I vow and allow enthusiasm to inspire me.
I vow and allow compassion to expand me.
I vow and allow compassion to expand me.
I vow and allow self-love to thrill me.
I vow and allow self-love to thrill me.
I vow and allow wellness to thrive me.
I vow and allow wellness to thrive me.
And I vow and allow generosity to prosper me.
I vow and allow generosity to prosper me.
And finally, I vow and allow to bless everything and everyone.
I vow and allow to bless everything and everyone.
Especially you. Right here. Right now. So it is. Here. We're going to take a moment. And, when we go through these processes, sometimes, we're saying these things. These are ways to cultivate. These are ways to bring us in, to go from obeying into embodying. We want to embody these things. So one of the great, I remember, one of the first times I went to a spiritual service and somebody was going on about all this stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, but I don't got that, I'm not experiencing that, I'm not feeling that. And they're like going on about whatever, and I was thinking, well, yeah, all right, whatever. And then I was like, you know what? I choose to get that. I choose to know it, I choose to experience it, I choose to feel it. And lo and behold, it started happening. Because you gotta give it permission. And that's what we do. And so we're going to turn within right now. Take a moment to open our hearts, our bodies, our minds, our souls. To move into that soft yet powerful place that is often referred to as the sweet space of God, the surrendered space of ultimate freedom. We open into that. We take a moment and we allow the energy of gratitude to fill and thrill us. We allow the energy of gratitude to overwhelm us. We may become aware of things we are grateful for, or we may just feel the colors, tingles, sensations of the vibrant frequency of gratitude, which allows us to be in awe and behold the holy light of the infinite eternal grace, the wisdom, the beauty that is God. We allow ourselves, we vow and allow ourselves to move into this space, to be so benevolently vulnerable. We stand before the altar of God completely naked. Naked, open and available, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. We allow ourselves to be so open, so benevolently vulnerable to this light. And to remember the great remembering that each and every one of us, and bringing it exceedingly personal, that I am, that you are, created in the image and the very likeness of infinite eternal light. As the ray of light is to the sun, as the drop of water is to the ocean, as we are to God. Pure light, pure love, eternal magnificence, referred to as bliss, nirvana, the truth. We open to that, and we allow ourselves to invite it, to evoke it, to allow it, and to allow it to expand us and grow us in benevolent and beautiful ways. Always we grow in benevolent and beautiful ways. This is the nature of God. This is the nature of life. This is the nature of my life. This is the nature of our life. I'm grateful to take a moment and know as that we open into the true power, the true presence of magnificence. As we allow ourselves to embody this, then we know that our responsibility is to thrive. Our responsibility is to bless. We take a moment, and I invite you to bring some person, anybody, whether it's one person or more, to mind that you would like to bestow a blessing on. And imagine the blessing of wellness. Imagine the blessing of prosperity or peace or grace or joy or all of the above, lavishing them. This is our responsibility. We are to bless. I am grateful to know that something wonderful has taken place here, a true awakening. For everything that has been spoken, all eternal truths are already known, coded, and loaded in our beingness. And so we open to that, and we allow our life, our practice, to be a joy-filled, magnificent expression of that. We have more than enough time. We have more than enough resources. We have more than enough prosperity. We have more than enough goodness. And it is from this place of opening into a greater and grander vision and version of our lives than ever before that we simply and gratefully, we give it permission. We move into divine right receivership. We allow ourselves to receive, claiming it so by saying, so be it. And so it is. Amen. 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 Aho.